Okay, hi everyone. This is like my fourth time attempting to record this. The last few times the program has quit unexpectedly in various points of when I've been speaking, so let's hope it works this time. I would really appreciate it. Alright, so I'm gonna go straight into it. I was gonna do like Harry Potter fan fiction, but I think Newsies just has the best bad fan fiction. Just ever, so. Okay, let's do this. A girl with a mysterious past somehow lands in the hands of Spot Conlon. Spot tries TRY apostrophe S to peek into her past, but only ends up hurting himself and her. She has never heard of him, so she doesn't know what is to come. Will she give in? In progress! I say that because it's in all caps and I feel like it's yelling at me. Okay, so it's loading. Of course, it's taking forever to load. The one time the video works, it takes forever to load because... Okay. The night was young in Brooklyn. All was calm in Queens, Manhattan, Bronx, the Harbor, and more. Brooklyn, on the other hand, had a slight malfunction. She was running as if something was chasing her. She looked back quite often, her green, yellow, and sometimes blue hazel eyes wide in fright. I think she's a cat. I'm just saying that I don't know who has eyes that color or changing eye color. Her long, golden brown hair, now tangled, leaning on the edge of unhygienic, whipped around her face as she hurried into the moonlit night. I mean, at least that's realistic. Unhygienic hair. Yeah. Her clothes were tattered and torn. Her once nice baby pink dress was now tinted with a murky brown color. She lost her shoes at one point and did not stop and bother to put them on again. Haley, which is obviously our protagonist's name, not looking down, must have stumbled on a rock or some sort and fell flat on her head. Tears automatically sprung in her eyes, and she fought to hold them back. She put one hand up and felt for damage. Her hand came back, feeling warm and sticky. Haley looked at it in the moonlight. Blood, she thought. She was losing more and more as she fought to stay conscious. She grew tired, and her attempts to stop the blood gushing out of her head grew feeble. Her body eventually gave into unconsciousness. You know, all I'm saying is that if you're in 1899 and you have a head wound that badly, you're gonna die. Like, if your head wound is that bad, you're just gonna die, like, irregardless of whatever. There is no, like, medical miracle. So I'm assuming that she's just a wuss and couldn't stand a little blood. Whatever. Spot wiped the blood off his famous cane. He had just gotten done with a few scabs. He pushed their useless bodies around, making sure they were dead. See, okay, in all honesty, it didn't have a line break, so I thought that he killed her. And I'm like, oh my god, this didn't do anything. Anyway. Scout, yeah, boss, do something with these bodies. Make sure they're not found. Got it, Scott replied. He called to his other newsie club. He told him to look around to see if anyone with peering eyes was looking. For example, a drunken homeless person. Once they were both done, they started to head back to Brooklyn. Spot's usual demeanor was back, and so was his typical smirk. Spot Conlon stood tall at 5'8" to 5'9". His chestnut-colored hair was a little his ears, but what stood out the most were his eyes. They were this piercing cerulean light blue color that made the girls swoon, but also stared into enemies. They could change into an angry gray-blue color in an instant if you challenge him. Their death awaited them when they stared into them. Spot was confident that he could beat anybody that came his way. He had a way about him that wanted you to obey him and make him in control. You don't upset Spot Conlon unless you want to be between inches of your life. You must respect Conlon, whether you like it or not. He was the leader of Brooklyn, after all. While walking back through the deserted alleys, Alley''S, Conlon noticed something was off. He knew these streets by heart, so this came as a surprise. He smelled a floral aroma that wafted into his nostrils. Okay, if this chick is a cat, then Spot's a dog, because this is ridiculous. He stopped, surprising his newsies, and turned left. Spot followed the perfume until at his feet was a girl, bleeding profusely at her head. Spot stood puzzled, then, not thinking through his actions, picked her up. He looked at her, and she was surprisingly not heavy, deceiving with her medium-sized frame. I can't imagine Spot going into any situation without thinking about it. So, bravo characterization. Bravo. Scout, his second in command, and Club knitted their eyebrows together. Scout then said, somewhat cautiously, "What's that, boss?" Spot didn't answer, instead opted for an blazing stare. He then turned back around and walked, somewhat quickly, to the Brooklyn lodging house that held all of his Newsies. "I hope what I'm doing isn't a mistake," Spot thought as he brought her inside. "The minute you think that, you know it's a mistake. Just saying." All of his Newsies quieted down as soon as they heard their leader was home. They were all shocked when he saw a young girl in his arms. Those brave enough stared with open curiosity at her and Spot. Spot returned their stares with a look that could set a man to fire. Spot then said nobody is allowed to touch her, and those who even think about doing so will receive a personal beating from me. Got it? They all nodded and watched his back as he walked upstairs. I don't think Spot's that type of leader. I mean, just from what I gathered, Spot's like the type of leader that people like and doesn't have to threaten them into like being his little puppets. But that's just me, and obviously this chick has really wonky characterization for him. So, whatever. Spot walked up to the third story, opened a bedroom door, and gently laid her down. He looked at her before turning around and smirking, because tomorrow he would get some answers that were flying around in his head. So the answers were flying around in his head and he would get them, because obviously while he has them, he doesn't actually have them. It doesn't matter if she likes it or not, he thought, because I'm Spot Conlon. So that's the first chapter. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. I think it definitely shows off the characterization of Spot and of this OC extremely well. And I'm sure you all agree. Indeed. Okay, so I think that once that updates, I'll be reading more of that bad fan fiction. Okay, bye everyone!